All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Welcome back to Mr. Ian Teaches English. Now, before we start, I have to tell you that I've been having a lot of trouble with my laptop recently, the same laptop that I'm using here. So if we get disconnected, if this crashes, I do apologize. I'll do my best to get back on. If something happens, then you may want to just check out my YouTube channel so you can reconnect with possibly a new live stream. I am not great at this, so I'm trying my best, and I hope that you'll learn something. I hope that you will comment, let me know you're here. I hope that you will share this with a friend because I'm trying to grow this channel. All right, so I'm looking at your questions for today, and anytime that you want to ask a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. Go ahead and just say hello in the chat, and we'll discuss lots of stuff. And I'll be here. I'm planning to be here for about an hour, but if I need to be here for longer, if you have lots of questions, please let me know. All right, let's give just another moment. Let me make sure that what I have here is working. There we go. All right, excellent. We're going to begin today talking about the parts of speech. Now, you may have studied this a long time ago, and you say, Mr. Ian, I don't need the parts of speech. Well, I think the parts of speech are more important the more English you learn. And the better you get at English, the more you need to remember these parts of speech. So let's go ahead and begin with those. We'll talk about them. I'm going to present here these parts of speech. Then we'll go into a document and I will ask you guys for some, for some examples, and we can work together. At any time you want to ask a question, please do. I'll have the chat open here so that you can ask your questions, and I am more than happy to answer them. Actually, I'm very excited about answering them. So let me know if you're there. Let me know if you have any questions. And here we go. Parts of speech. Now, the first thing we need to do is do an overview to look at all of the parts of speech. How many? To look at all of the parts of speech. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. That's exactly right. There are 8 parts of speech. Now, every English word is one of these. Now, why do you need to learn these? You need to learn these because you need to know how to make sentences. And you need to know the difference between an adjective and an adverb, or the verb and the noun. And you need to know these because this is how English works. And if you know how the pieces work, you can build with them. It's kind of like Lego. My kids play with Lego. Everybody loves Lego, right? Kids build little pieces, but you build them. In the same way, you are going to build with these. So let's have a look here, and let's start with the first one. The first one is a noun. Now notice I say a noun and not noun. In English, if you have a singular noun, it needs an article. So this is it. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. And that's important. Some teachers teach person, place, and thing, but not the idea. What is an idea? It's those things that we can't touch, but we know are real. For example, love. Can you touch love? No, you can't. But we all understand and we all agree that it's a true thing. Next is a verb. Now, you guys use verbs all the time. You probably hate all the changes in English with the verb tenses, and that's okay. I have a playlist for that. Go ahead and check out my verb playlist. I have all 12 tenses in English, and you can look at that and get a better understanding of the verbs. Now, the good news is you only need to learn 5 of them to say anything you want in English. The other 7 are good, the other 7 are useful, but not necessary to produce ideas. Those are the simple present, simple past, simple future, present continuous, and present perfect. You master those, and I promise you'll be able to make any idea that you want in English. Now, in English, we have different types of verbs. We talked about this in a different lesson, but there are those action verbs, there are being verbs, and there are also helping verbs, those verbs that don't really mean anything but are necessary to make good verb tenses. Think about the verb do. Like when you say, what do you do? That verb doesn't really do anything, but it is important. It is necessary for that verb tense. Next one is an adjective. Now in English, we divide our descriptive words into 2. Adjectives here, they describe or add detail to a noun. All right, so if you have a noun and you want to describe it in any way or modify it, you use an adjective to do that. Now be careful, because some adjectives look like other parts of speech and are even spelled the same or even are pronounced the same. But adjectives always do the job of describing, and they describe a noun. Also, there's some special adjectives that we have in English called articles or demonstratives. And these are words that sometimes teachers put in different categories, but I disagree. They describe nouns, so I put them in the adjective pile. What's next? Probably the most difficult, in my opinion, are adverbs. Adverbs describe 3 different things, and that's why it's so hard, in my opinion. Adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. What? So we'll talk about that in a minute when we get to our document. You'll be able to see the different types of verbs, different types of adverbs, and you'll see me use the same adverb in different ways, so hopefully you can understand that. Prepositions. Prepositions show a relationship between 2 things, sometimes physical, like where is the book? It's on the table, or non-physical, like when is your birthday? It's in December. Now, students spend a lot of time focusing on prepositions, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't. Not really. One question that students always have is, Mr. Ian, what is the difference between in, on, and at? And I tell them, that doesn't really matter. Most of the time, prepositions are not that important. If you say you're in the beach, or on the beach, or at the beach, who cares? We understand you. So, are prepositions important? Yes, they can be important. But most of the time, study something else. You do what you want. You're an adult. But I don't recommend that students spend very much time on prepositions because they simply don't matter that much. Pronouns. Now these you have to be careful for, because if you say the wrong pronoun, it completely changes the ideas in the sentence. Pronouns replace nouns, so you don't have to say the name again. You just use a substitute, which is usually much shorter. You'll see here the pronouns are divided into 4, actually 5. I didn't put the reflexive on there, but 4 different types here: the subject, the object, the possessive adjective, and the possessive pronoun. I'll give you a second to take a screenshot while I drink some tea. So these are important. Subjects and objects are important to understand because these pronouns are either before or after a verb. That's why we say, I love you and you love me. That word there is on different sides of the verb. Because of that, we use either the subject or the object. Now you'll see here that I have alone. We use those when we are answering a question, usually a question, and there's nothing else in the sentence. So, who wants to go to the store? Me. That's it. There's no verb there. There's nothing else. So we choose the object. So get used to that. If somebody says, Who's going to take out the trash? Them. If it's alone, use those object pronouns. Conjunctions. These are really important for complex language. If you're learning English and you're getting in the higher levels of English and building big sentences, I do recommend that you spend some time understanding the conjunctions and how they work. I don't have a video about this yet, but I plan to do a video about the different sentence structures that we make in English. There's 4 of them, and we use conjunctions to do that. Now, you probably use conjunctions all the time, like but, and, because, but you may not know exactly how to use them. They just feel natural, and that's good. All right. Conjunctions also sometimes come with commas. So, do you use a comma every time? No. We can talk about those rules later, but I don't know. That gets tough. All right, I think we got 2 more. Oh, 1 more. An exclamation. Exclamations, they just show great emotion. These are words that don't really fit in any other category. For example, if you hit your foot, you go, ow. Or if somebody scores a goal, you go, yes. These are exclamations. All they do is show great emotion. All right, I think that's it. Now we're going to look at some examples. So let me switch over here. Let me make sure that you can still see what you need to see. Yes, you can. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Too big. There we go. Looks good. Looks good. All right. Remember, at any time, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. I'm very happy to answer these questions for you as we go. I like teaching English, and to be honest, it's easier to teach when I have people to teach to. Talking to a computer is a little bit strange. So if you're there and you have a question, I would love to see it. Also, if you're watching this later, if you said, Mr. Ian, I tried really hard to come to your live stream, but I was late. That's okay. Put your question in the comments, and I'm happy to answer those. I read all my comments, and I would love to answer your questions. All right, let's talk about these. Now, nouns. We do divide nouns into 2 different types. We call them common nouns and proper nouns. And let's get some ideas about these. Uh-oh. Is it starting? I told you it was having trouble with my computer. Let's see if it comes back. Okay. Whew. Common nouns and proper nouns. Common nouns are things that there are many versions of. Proper nouns are usually names for things. So for example, a common noun might be table. Or, we get another one in here, city. No. Undo. Or teacher. Right? There are many tables. There are many cities. There are many teachers. Proper nouns, on the other hand, are sort of special names for things. And so a table is not special, but let's say Xbox. That is special. It's a particular type of something. When we say Xbox, we all understand exactly what we're talking about. And notice, what do we do with the first letter? We capitalize it. City. All right. Lots of cities in the world, but how many Parises are there? There's one, and that's the name for the city. Notice we use a capital letter to show that. And teachers. There's lots of teachers in the world, lots of really great teachers, but your teacher right now is Mr. Ian. And notice we do the same. It's a name, so we capitalize it. And this is a really good help when you are reading in English. If you see a capital word, it means that it is a name. Oh, hello, Jess. Welcome, welcome. Hello, hello. It means that it's a name. I've had many students ask me, what's this vocabulary word? And it's not really a vocabulary word. It's the name of something because it has a capital letter. So keep an eye on that. Oh, Guy. Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. I'm so glad you're here. If you have any questions, Guy, please put them in the chat. Love to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, that's so fun. So we read books in my class. Last term we read Sherlock Holmes, and there were a lot of place names in Sherlock Holmes that the students were not familiar with. And they would ask, what is Misselthwaite? Well, it has a capital letter, so it's the name of something. And this can be an easy cheat to allow you to understand more words and understand the names of them. All right, what was the next one? Do you remember? It was verb. And I guess I should put plurals here because that's what we're doing. See? We come back. We keep coming back. All right, nouns, verbs. These fall into three categories when I teach: be, action, and helping. So being verbs are probably what you think it is. It's the verb to be. But remember that be has a lot of different forms. In the present tense, it's is, am, are. In the past tense, it's was, were. So you have to remember that there are many different versions of be. The next type of verb are those action verbs. These are basically any verb except be. Anything you can do. Walk, sleep, run, anything that you can do. These are special, and it's important to know the difference between these because when you're building sentences, when you are creating questions, it's important to know how these work. And finally, the helping verbs. In my mind, I define helping verbs as any time you have two or more verbs. Examples of these are the verb will. What does will mean? It doesn't really mean anything except it's in the future tense, right? Another one is have. This is incredibly common. We use have in a sentence. What does it really mean? Well, as a main verb, it has a meaning. You know that. But as an auxiliary verb, as a helping verb, it doesn't really mean anything. It tells us what's next. It tells us what verb tense is there. So if I say, I've seen, I have seen, that word have doesn't really mean anything except to tell us that it is a perfect tense. It is a present perfect tense in this case. If it's in the past, past perfect tense. But that word have, necessary, but doesn't have a special meaning. And then the last one we'll talk about here is the word do. And I know you hate the word do because it doesn't mean anything. And it also means everything. We use do as a substitute for an action. Think about Nike, right? What does Nike say? Nike says, just do it. What does that mean, do? Well, here, it means just swim, just run, just dance, just compete. It's a substitute for any verb, all right? And we also use it in negatives and in sentences, questions where it means nothing, all right? What did you do last night? Well, that word did is only there to help you know the verb tense, that it's in the past. Or another question, we might say, do you like apples? Well, that word do, again, doesn't really mean anything except it fulfills the rule of having to put a verb first in an English question. All right, verbs. Now, also, hey, we're getting a few people here. We have a small crowd. Give me some examples. I can see the chat here. I'm looking down at my phone so I can see the chat. If you want to give an example of these nouns or these verbs, please do. I'll put them on the spreadsheet here. Now, after nouns, what are we looking at? What was number 3? Do you remember? Adjectives, yeah. Adjectives. Now, adjectives describe what? Go on. They describe nouns. So, anytime we use an adjective, we are using it to describe a noun. Now, this can be difficult because adjectives can sometimes look like verbs. For example, bored. Is that a verb or is that an adjective? Well, alone, we don't know. But let's put it in a sentence. I bored him. That's a verb. What if we change the sentence? Oh, again. Oh, Google. All right, we're fighting it, though. We're fighting Google. What if we say, I'm bored. Here, same word. It's an adjective. So be careful. And this is why these parts of speech are really important when you get into the advanced sections of English as you're learning English at a higher level, to be able to know the difference between these, because they look the same. That ed ending looks exactly the same. All right. Now, adjectives in English usually come before their verb, like bored student. Bored students, that's fine. But here as well, they also are after a be verb. So there you go. Now, one thing to remember about adjectives in English is adjectives are always plural. Sorry, they're always singular. Now, this is difficult for me because I'm learning French, and it's confusing for me because in French, you know, if the noun is plural, then the adjective is plural. So it's more difficult for me because in English, adjectives are always singular. So you have different dog or different dogs. It does not change. Adjectives are always singular, which is why sometimes you'll see people say, what do they say? A 5-year-old boy. All right, that's because 5-year-old describes boy. So we can't pluralize it. We have to keep it in the singular. All right, adverbs. Adverbs are probably the most difficult one. This is where my students spend most of the time studying, are adverbs. And remember, adverbs describe 3 different things. They describe verbs, most commonly. They also describe adjectives, and they describe other adverbs. And this can get a little bit tricky, a little bit difficult. So let's look at an example. The same word, the same adverb, and let's use it to describe things. All right. To describe a verb, we might say the car drives fast. And this is the most common way that we use adverbs. We use adverbs to, we use adverbs in order to, here we go again. There we go. We use adverbs in order to describe verbs. So how did the car drive? It drove fast. All right. Now, we also might use an adverb to describe adjectives. And let's say, for example, here, the car drives really. Oh, we'll leave that one. The car drives. The car's really, well, let me change it slightly because I want to make sure I'm very clear with this. The really nice car drives fast. All right, now here we have nice, which describes what? Describes car. So that is an adjective. And we have really, which describes nice. How nice? Really nice. So here we're using an adverb to describe an adjective, usually intensifiers or something similar. And then finally, the one that I think is the most difficult is describing adverbs. So let's take our sentence from here. And the adverb was fast. We're just going to describe the word fast. How fast? Really fast. Again, daggone it. Sorry, guys. I got to figure out what's going on here, but not during a live stream. So thank you for your patience with me. So here in this one, this is our adverb here. In this one, this is our adverb. And in this one, this is our adverb. All right. So how fast does it drive? It drives really fast. And you'll see these as intensifiers very often. You'll see these as intensifiers. All right. Questions on that? I honestly would be surprised if you didn't have questions about adverbs. They can be pretty tough. All right. Next one. What was after adverbs? Pronouns. All right, some examples of pronouns. Remember that we want to use these as subjects or objects or descriptive adjectives or their own pronouns, following it, possessive pronouns. Now, I would probably just tell you to go back and look at this chart here to find it. and you can use it. Be careful though. It is important to know. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate your patience, everybody. I got to do something with this computer after today. Problem started yesterday, and I'll look at it. I don't know. I'll look at it later. But I didn't want to do it before my live stream and then ruin my computer, and then I can't do my live stream. So here we are. Now, I would tell you to be careful with these and to remember these and memorize these because sometimes they're the same. See, you and you, they're the same. All right, let's go. Where were we? You and you are the same. All right. Her and her are the same. And so it's just important. It and it is the same. Sometimes they are. So it's really good to learn them to be able to handle which one you need to use. Now, the good news is, and I tell my students this all the time, that I think English speakers are pretty forgiving. When you talk to them, they're pretty, they want to help you. They want you to do well. And so I'm very thankful for that. I'm very proud of that because I'm happy that my people, my fellow English speakers are nice and are trying to help other people. When I lived overseas and I tried to speak different languages, I would often get laughed at. And that didn't feel very good. So I think that English speakers are pretty good about helping you out and being patient with you. All right, so pronouns, there's nothing to say. There's a finite list of pronouns, so we're going to skip over that. All right, the next one were prepositions. And what did I say about prepositions? I said, don't worry about them that much. Rarely does it make a difference. It does sometimes. So don't go tell your teacher, Mr. Ian online said the prepositions don't matter. That's not what I said. But what I want you to know is that they're not that important. My students make mistakes with prepositions all the time, but I still understand them. If they say, Mr. Ian, I went at the beach this weekend. That's wrong. That sounds horrible. But do I understand where they went? Yeah, I do. Do I understand what they're doing? Yes, absolutely. All right. If they say, I work in Amazon instead of I work at Amazon, I completely understand them. So this is something that I think students spend a lot of time on, and some of the most successful sort of YouTube viral videos are people explaining in, on, and at. And maybe that's why I'm not as successful. I don't know, but it's just not that important. And so I would much rather you practice some other part of English that is important. And actually, when I get here to the bottom, remind me, I might tell you the big three, the things I think you do need to practice. But prepositions are not one of them. Learn them, listen to them, hear how native speakers use them, but don't worry about it too much. Please, 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 don't worry about it too much. The only thing I will say is when we talk about phrasal verbs, these are verb plus preposition combinations. They're pretty important. So what do I mean by that? I mean the difference between stand or stand with or stand by or stand out. Those can make big differences, but those aren't the questions that students usually answer. All right, you know what stand means. Stand means stand. Stand with means to support. Stand by means to wait. Stand out means to be special in some way. So those do make a difference. But again, that's not usually the question that students are asking. Students are usually asking, is it in the bank or on the bank or at the bank? And that's not really that big of a deal. Now, phrasal verbs, I will say something about those. They're really hard, but they're really necessary. If you want to be a successful English speaker, you must learn phrasal verbs and you must learn them well. So my advice is check out my playlist on phrasal verbs. Go to my YouTube channel, look at playlist. I have an instructional video about how phrasal verbs work. And then I upload these shorts, usually about one a week. I upload these shorts with common phrasal verbs. So take your time with those. That is going to be a lifelong education for you. So don't try to learn all the phrasal verbs in 2 weeks or study all the phrasal verbs with give. It's just not a good use of your time. All right, again, if you have questions about anything at all, not phrasal verbs or parts of speech, any questions at all, please put it in the chat. I would love to answer your questions specifically. All right, after prepositions, we have conjunctions, and we're almost done. Conjunctions connect words. They're also spelled differently than I thought. These connect words. The most common ones that you probably use are and, but, or. And you maybe, if you had a good English teacher, maybe they taught you the fanboys or yet. So these are conjunctions. These are special conjunctions that we use for compound sentences. This is for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. But, like, for example, this one, we almost never use that one. This one, we never use it. I never use it, so I don't see why you need to. There are other conjunctions as well in some bigger sentences that you probably already use. Because, when, while, after, before. These are all very common conjunctions that you'll use in sentences, and you probably already use. Now, I discussed commas a little bit earlier, and just know that you do not use commas with most of these. You will use commas with these, but they're special. We call those the coordinating conjunctions, and they're used to create compound sentences. Most of the conjunctions that you use will probably be these, and they are not used with a comma, especially because my students love to use a comma with because. It's like they write a paragraph for me, and then they get a little comma pen, and they go comma, 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 everywhere. They love commas, but you don't use commas with those in the middle of a sentence. That's a completely different lesson. That's a whole lesson by itself. But I'll give you a little one here, a little tiny lesson for free. You don't have to pay for it. Do not use a comma with because. Just don't do it. If you have the word because, please do not use a comma in front or behind it. There you go. That's free. You don't have to pay for that one. And then the last one. The last one is exclamations. Exclamations are these expressions of emotion, these expressions of high emotion. Like we said before, if you hurt your foot while you're walking, you might say ouch. Or if your team scores a goal, you might say yes. I did this last night. I was playing FIFA with my son, with my 8-year-old. He's surprisingly good at FIFA. And we were playing, and I scored a goal, and I was so happy because he scored a goal first, and he was winning, and I couldn't have it. I could not be beaten by my 8-year-old child. But we had a good time. In this one also falls a lot of bad words. And I want to do a lesson on the bad words because I think they're really important. Not that you need to use them. You can use them. But it's good to know them so you know if other people are using them against you, or if you have kids, you know what they're texting if they're texting in English. A lot of my students, we did a lesson on the bad words in English, and they were very thankful for it because they have kids who are in school, who are texting on their phones, and they wanted to know if their children were using these words. Again, you do what you want. You're an adult. But learning about them is not a bad thing. I think learning about them can be very good. I think it is very good. Not can be. It is very good. All right. Those are the parts of speech. Let me go back here so it will look pretty before we go. Parts of speech. All right. I want to make it bigger, but I don't want to make Google angry. Google Chrome. Anyway. Now, I'll hang out for a second. We got a couple people here. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat. I would love to discuss your questions. The parts of speech is just something I thought would be interesting. It's not a video that I've created before, and I think it's really important. But you're here because you're learning English, and if you're learning English, then you probably have questions about it. So let me hang out for a few seconds. I'm going to drink my Baby Yoda tea here, and I'll answer your questions. So put them in the chat, and if not, we'll go home. All right. You might ask, what tea am I drinking? Earl Grey. It's always Earl Grey. It's better than regular tea, which is, unusual. My wife, she's from the UK, so she drinks tea all the time, but she likes the just the regular stuff, the English breakfast type of tea. All right, we'll wait just one more moment, and then we'll talk about your questions if you have them. And thank you for reminding me. When I was talking about prepositions, I said that they weren't that important, and I mean it. I don't think they're that important. But I did tell you that there were 3 things that I think are really important. Let me put those down here. The big 3. So I'll give you these, and then we'll get out of here. You guys can enjoy the rest of your Sunday or Monday, whatever time it is where you are. All right, let's talk about the big 3. The big 3 are verb tenses. In English, the verb tenses are really important because they place things in time, specifically the past tense, and not the simple past tense, just all the past tenses. In English, we have 6 verb tenses that talk about the past, and they're important because they tell us exactly when things happen. So study your verb tenses. Remember, I told you that you need to learn 5 of them, and you can learn them with me. Check the playlist. I try to keep my playlist organized, so you can have a look there. Number 2 is pronoun antecedents. And what this simply means is when you use a pronoun, do I know exactly who you're talking about? Do your pronouns match? So if you're talking about, this happens in class all the time, students are practicing and they say, oh, my husband, she, well, who's she? Because you said husband, and that's a man, but you just said she. Is this a new character, or is this something else? So pronoun antecedents, make sure that it is very clear when you have pronouns what you're talking about. And now, actually, let me give you an example. So the woman took the little girl back to her house. All right. So I'll ask you, we have the pronoun her here, the pronoun adjective. Whose house did they go to? Oh, wait. We don't know. And that's the problem. That's why this is one of the big 3. Are we talking about her, the little girl, or her, the woman? You need to be clear about that in English. All right, and the last one, number 3, is subject verb agreement. All right, subject verb agreement. The idea here is that your subject matches in form or in number with your verb. So for example, if you say a man are coming to check the air conditioning. Now there's a problem here, and we know there's a problem. You said a man, one, are, plural. So the reason this is part of the big 3 is because we know there's a mistake, but where is that mistake? Is the mistake with a man? Should there be multiple men? Or is that mistake with the verb, and I should only expect one man to come to the house? We don't know, and that's why that's important. So these are the big 3. If you want to focus your English studies, I do recommend that you focus them on the big 3. I don't recommend that you focus them on prepositions. You can, if you want. You're an adult. You do what you want. But in my experience with English learners, this is a much more useful way to do it, because when I am reading and talking to people, this is what's important. These big 3 here. All right, and just a nice way to focus your studies, because sometimes with a language, maybe you don't know what to do next. We should fix this. There you go. you don't know what to do next. So this is a good way, a good strategy maybe to work on those. And I'll have to brag on myself here because I've got videos on almost all these. So go check out those videos. You can also suggest videos or recommend videos or request videos for different types of subjects. My students do this in my class all the time. They ask for something and I'll make a video about it, answering it, so they can learn from it and other people can too. So, all right, I think we're getting close. We just hit the 45-minute mark. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience with my technical difficulties. I really do appreciate you being here. Your support means everything. The only reason I'm doing this is to share the teaching that I've done for years and to help you, because you guys have goals to do stuff. You have goals to move to different places. I was actually talking to a young woman this morning who is learning English so that she can have more opportunity. And that's true. You'll have a lot more opportunity if you learn English. And I hope that I can help with that. So thank you all for being here. Until next time, we'll see you.